Hi, I'm Steven. That is Erock, and we are gaming through time. So if you missed our first video, there's a link down below where you can click on that, where we talk about the best board games published from the Big Bang all the way through to 1979.
We talked about every game.
Yeah, every game.
The start of time all the way up to 1970.
No, mostly 1975 to 1979. But in this video, we're going to tell you our favorite games published in 1980 through 1984. George Orwell, 1984. All right.
Indeed, yes.
Cool. All right, Erock, do you want us to start us off with your pick for 1980, the 80s?
The 80s, yes. I was 6 years old and just starting to get into it. It's awesome. Okay, so I got a confession to make. I'm a big cheater because I don't think I played a single game from 1980. But what I did play is thousands and thousands of hours of Sid Meier's Civilization, which is absolutely a straight ripoff of Civilization. So my pick for 1980 is Civilization. It's always been on my back burner wish list kind of grail game to try to get one of these. I don't even know if I'd ever play it. And I almost played Mega Civ a couple of years ago at a convention, but decided I'd rather play 2 whole days of actual other games as opposed to 2 whole days of that one game. But it's on my list. It's kind of one of those bucket list things where I want to play Civilization. You know,
I will caution you, although you have maybe a more amenable group than I do, but I got a very nice production from Print and Play Productions of that nice art version of Civilization with Advanced Civilization in a giant heavy box, and it sat in my closet for years. I could not get anybody to play it with me. And finally, I gave it away. I put it on the Dice Tower Retreat exchange table. And so it is gone, no longer haunting me. But
I understand. That's pretty much why it's on my back burner, because I feel like that. Like, I want it because I want it, but I'm never going to get a group to play it. So
I really wanted to play it, but it's one of those games that you really need, I think, 5 or 6 people who will spend 5 or 6 hours playing it.
Minimum.
I just could not. I just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I understand.
However,
meanwhile, there's the computer game.
However, BGG agrees with you. Civilization is the number 1 ranked game from 1980 on BGG. Now, you say you haven't played any games from 1980, and I'm a little surprised because this game, the game at the top of my list, was published in 1980, and it is Can't Stop.
Yeah, I've never actually played Can't Stop.
What? You haven't played Can't Stop? Okay.
I mean, I obviously know what it is. I know the game. I've read the rules. I've actually seen it on Board Game Arena and everything. I've never played it. This was absolutely going to be my pick, except I've never played it. And I figured, well, if I'm talking about something I haven't played, I'll talk about whatever I haven't played. So what's the difference? You know?
Yeah, I mean, Can't Stop is just distilled push your luck. I mean, it probably defined the genre, right?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, you are just trying to, there are columns that represent the numbers from 2 to 12, and it's sort of on a Gaussian distribution, right? So the numbers in the middle, 6, 7, 8, have longer paths, and you're trying to move your marker up the path. If you can get to the top of a column first, you lock it down, and once you lock 3 columns down, you win the game, and you lock it down by just rolling dice. So you got 4 dice, you roll them, and you make pairs with the dice, and those are your numbers. And you could be, on your turn, you can be working on 3 numbers simultaneously. And so every time you roll those, you move up on the thing. But if you ever roll and can't advance the dice, can't advance one of your markers because of the die roll, then you lose all of your progress. So you have to decide at some point to stop and bank. You know, say my turn is over, but you can't stop, right? There are people who literally cannot stop. They want to try to win the game in one turn, which is possible.
It's possible. Sure.
It's unlikely, but possible. But it is fun just because you're watching it and you're either sort of trying to convince people that they should stop, or you're goading them into keep rolling, you know. So there's that social aspect to the game.
Yes.
And, you know, I think a lot of people, that's what's fun about Push Your Luck, is watching somebody else push their luck. Right. So
yeah, I agree.
So it is a very party like atmosphere when you play this game. So
I can't blame you. It's probably played way more than Civilization at this point. It's still being played. Like I said, it's on Board Game Arena. You can go play Can't Stop, and everybody knows Can't Stop. I'm just never played.
Yeah, and you don't really need anything. You just need a few components. I mean, you just make your own, right? It's so simple. So
and a couple of dice. That's it.
Yeah. So you have no excuse.
No excuse. That's correct.
All right. Well, so there you go. 1980, Can't Stop, and Civilization. All right. 1981, might be feeling some crossover here. What do you got for us?
This is one of those hard years. This is the first really hard year I had because I really have 3 games here that I could have chosen. And what I'm going to go with is Axis and Allies. I absolutely loved Axis and Allies. Quite frankly, I still love Axis and Allies. I would absolutely play Axis and Allies, except I'm about the only one anymore that wants to put that much time into a dice chucker like that. But we spent, weekends playing Axis and Allies just to talk about it all week in school to go play Axis and Allies again on the weekend. It's just such a great game. As far, it's again, we're back at the World War II that we were talking about in the last piece. But, it has so many different pieces, and like for instance, a bomber attacks on a 4, which means it hits on 4 or less on a 6, but it only defends on a 1, so you have to roll a 1 and so everything has different values. A battleship both defends and attacks on a 4, so you get these huge battles, huge battles. I mean, so many you would have a stack of chips this big underneath a tank to represent the 27 tanks I have rolling into this battle, kind of a thing. And and it's one of those games, like, even if you're not in this battle, you're engaged in this battle. So I've had a ton of fun playing Axis and Allies. It's been a very, very long time since I played, but like I said, I still love this game, and I'm sure I would play if I could find 5 people to play.
I played this game a ton. I still remember a bunch of strategies that we would try, and some strategies that were bad, like anything from trying to have the Americans get a factory in China, right. or just as the Americans just researching and trying to send super bombers across to Britain to bomb. Or one time I even tried as the Japanese to not do Pearl Harbor. Which is normally just a first move Japanese thing, like just destroy the American fleet.
There's just so much.
Yeah, if you don't, then the American industrial machine can just build up a navy in the Pacific and crushes you. So that, but there's just here it is. I mean, it's probably been 20 years since I played this game, and I remember all this stuff vividly. And and so that is why Axis and Allies is my honorable mention.
Oh, so
I wanted
close.
to make an honorable mention, and I feel like with my pick, maybe we've got a reversal here, because yes, Axis and Allies is great, and it was a tough pick, but I went with Dark Tower.
My honorable mention. There you go. Yes,
I played a ton of Dark Tower. I still, again, having not played the game probably in 20 years, I remember the noises from the tower. The fighting. And the frontier noise and the opening the crypt and the noise when the dragon shows up and then you slay it with the sword. And this game is just really simple. There's 4 areas and you have to work your way clockwise across the map. You start in your home region, then you move to the next region. In each region, you have to hunt around till you find a key, and then you have to frontier to the next region. And then once you have all 3 of them together, you're back in your home territory. You get a bunch of warriors and you go to fight the tower, and you have to guess the sequence of the 3 keys. Right. And then you fight a ton of brigands, And there's a ton of random stuff, right? I mentioned the dragon can show up, but if you bought the sword, you slay the dragon. You can get lost, but if you have the scout, it actually helps you because you get to move twice that turn. And so there's dumb luck stuff that will happen, but there's things that you can do to mitigate it. And there's you can haggle at the bazaar because you can see the price of a warrior, and you're like, oh, if I could just get it down 1 more, I'll be able to get a few more warriors. Let me haggle. And the guy's like, no, bazaar closed. And, and it's just, all that stuff is still vivid in my mind, even though I haven't played this game in so long, because I played it so much as a kid. And, that electronic tower was part of it, right? Because
absolutely,
even for the time, it wasn't that special of a game. Like if you were to take the tower out, just sort of moving around, doing stuff, like it still would have been a good game for the time. But the tower,
it was fine.
What made
the
it
tower
special.
made it. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, my honorable mention. We flip flopped on this one, but yeah, absolutely. Just the experience of that tower and all that going on at that time in history. There was nothing else like that. Like I was saying on our previous one with Stop Thief, like the little electronic contraption for Stop Thief, and this tower. This was like the next big generation of somebody using electronic stuff well in a game. It was just fantastic. And of course, it still has reverberations through the hobby now because Restoration Games just came out with Return to Dark Tower, which is, although different, we covered in a separate video, which you're more than welcome to go see. But Steve and I both like that game. I think it kept the spirit of the original game very well, so it lives on.
So, the number one ranked game on BGG from 1981 is not Dark Tower. It is not Axis and Allies. It is A House Divided: War Between the States, 1861 to 65. So this is just a Civil War game, right? So we're back in Grognard territory.
That's what I was going to say. It just goes to show you that Grognards ruled everything. Like the farther away you get from a day, then the Grognards own that area. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, war games were the thing there for a long time. I mean, we had tons of Avalon Hill games growing up where it was just pushing, little cardboard counters around on hexes. We tried a bunch of that different stuff. This one actually looks a little bit different. The cities are connected by little connections, but you still have, infantry markers, cardboard markers for the infantry and stuff. So I don't actually know a lot about the game because I looked at it and I felt like I knew what this game was, right? Like it's just it's a Civil War game. But, hey, number one ranked game from 1981, beating out things like Dark Tower and Axis and Allies. It's probably pretty good.
It's gotta be.
So if that's your bag, go check it out.
Yeah.
All right. How about we move on to 1982?
1982. At least I've played games in this year.
All right. Well, so what do you got for us?
For 1982, there were actually some good games in this as well. Some of them are still in print status. But for me, my game of this year was Illuminati. This is a Steve Jackson game. It's probably not even close to as good as some of the other games from this year, but I loved this game. We played it a ton in high school, and basically everybody is a secret society. So you might be the UFOs, and I'm the Bavarian Illuminati, and somebody else is the Discordian Society. And you just get these, like, you try to make kind of a pyramid of things that you control. So, like, I might control the FBI, and the FBI might control both, I don't know, fire stations and NBC, and NBC might control. And so this is it. You're just trying to build this big chain of control down, just like an Illuminati, the theory is, where they control everything. And it was basically just a competition between everybody to see who could build the best, most lucrative organization. And there was a little bit of infighting among them and things like that. But, like I said, I'm sure you're going to name a better game, but I loved Illuminati. We played it a ton.
Yeah, I mean, I played it too. And, you talk about having that sort of structure, I don't think you had to shape it like a pyramid.
It wasn't. In fact, they all had like but
it was interesting.
Like 4 directions off, so you could actually go.
Yeah, so you could attack one of them, and if you sort of grabbed it from another player, you grabbed its whole tree underneath too.
Yeah,
and that was interesting. Right. Now, one thing that I hated about this game is it actually says in the rules you're allowed to cheat.
Yes, it does.
It says in the rules that you could cheat. It's just, you just have to, not do it if somebody catches you doing it. So this is the only time that I can remember offhand that I have rage quit a game. We were playing in high school, and we didn't have a whole lot of time. We had something that we had to go do. So I was like, look, it's just a pain and slows the game down to pay attention to what everybody's doing with money and whatever, et cetera. So let's just all agree that we're not going to cheat. Okay, so that we can, because the game is fun without the cheating. It's like, okay, so we're playing, and we've been playing for like an hour, and I go and attack some guy's control center, and he's got like 50 money stashed on it, which there's no way he's got 50 money during the game. I'm like, we agreed that we weren't going to do that. And he's like, but the rules say I can do it. I just scraped the whole game into the box. It was my game. So I just scraped the whole game into the box and left. There were like 4 of us playing. I don't care. I just, whatever.
Before table flipping was a thing.
Yeah. I just rage quit and took it. So,
nice.
All right. So I am curious if you have played my pick because I haven't. Bear with me. My pick is from 1982 is Survive.
Okay.
But I have played Survive Escape from Atlantis.
Right. Exactly. This was on my list as a possible here, but I just played so much Illuminati. But yeah, because the two games got combined, right? There was Survive and there was Escape from Atlantis, and then they just got combined into the same game.
But if you look at Survive, it looks like Survive Escape from Atlantis.
Yeah, sure does. It's the same game. I agree.
What? All right. So why don't you tell me about the game?
You want me to tell you about it?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So there's an island, and basically slowly it's getting eaten up by the ocean. And you have like a whole set of meeples, and they all have hidden numbers on them. And basically the point is that you're trying to get your highest valued meeples, well, all of them, but your highest valued meeples off of the island before they drown or get eaten by sharks or whatever. And it's a pretty mean game as far as it goes. I mean, it's a good spirited mean game. So it's not like, you would potentially rage quit, but it's more of a like, I gotcha kind of a thing. You'd be like, oh no, not my best guy. No, that kind of a game. So
yeah, I love that, the whale that knocks the boat over and the sharks that eat the people if they're in the water. And, somebody's trying to get their people on a boat off. So you sort of get one of your people on the boat, and because you've got a limited number of actions, so you hitch a ride. That other person's going to do all the work to get that boat to safety. I'm just going to send one of my people along for the ride, right? So, yeah, no, I mean it's a great game, and we really like Survive Escape from Atlantis, the Stronghold reprint. But as far as I can tell, the original game is basically the same. It doesn't have a 3D board like the the latest ones, but the concept is still the same. So you know what? I'm going with it. 1982, Survive.
Just a side note here, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, the Thames Murder and Other Cases. This is actually the year that came out. I think this really hit its stride about 5 years ago, really. I think this was, one of those things that nobody really paid attention to. And then about 5 years ago, I don't even know if that's true, but it's about 5 years ago. It was reprinted in a fancy version. Now that's a big, big hit. I was very surprised to find this in 1982.
I wasn't too surprised because it's the BGG #1 for 1982. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, the Thames Murders and Other Cases. So you hit it right on the head. And I haven't played this either, but it's just like a giant mystery in a box with all kinds of articles and information you have to shift through, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we played it once or twice. We actually have all three of the current prints, but we've only played it once or twice. It's cool because it's not like a traditional game. There's no turns. You just, there's a paper, like an actual newspaper, and there might be a clue in that as to what's going on. And you just kind of wander around the city and do things and try to figure it out. And the way people play it now generally is kind of like you take a look at some things, try to figure something out, and then that's it. You leave it alone. You go think about it for a couple of days and do your business. And you might be at work and be like, oh, what did he say about that guy? And then you come home and you play a little bit and try to figure that stuff out again. So it's a good game. Like I said, I was surprised it was in this year, but good game.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we've got 1983.
Come on. This one we're going to cross over.
All right. What do you got? What do you got for me?
Absolutely Scotland Yard. Without a doubt, Scotland Yard. Oh, you're laughing. You did not cross over on Scotland Yard?
Scotland Yard is also my pick for 1983. It is also the Spiel des Jahres winner from that year.
Oh.
Which I think I remember that. Yeah, which I find interesting. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us about Scotland Yard.
Scotland Yard's fantastic. This was really another one that I still have in my collection. It's great. It's still a great game. There's all these, newer versions of the same kind of theme where one person is trying to basically escape from all the other people finding them. And they have this hidden movement thing where there's all these spots on the board and you might be able to get from spot to spot, like by a taxi or by a subway or by a boat. And everybody else just kind of goes around because all the detectives can see each other and they're coordinating with each other. And you as Mr. X, you kind of write where you're going to on a little sheet and then you put the ticket on it to show what you used. So this is going back to that stop thief that I was talking about in the last segment too, where it's very much you're trying to piece together how they moved to find where they are now. And I played a ton of this. This is right up my alley. The same thing I was saying in the last segment. Like, I just love these games where you're trying to figure this deduction, movement, where they are now kind of thing out. And I'm sure I played this a ton, probably more than any other games on my list here. And I'm telling you, I played Axis and Allies like a fool, and I've probably played Scotland Yard more.
So, I think the publisher has dropped the ball a little bit on the original version of Scotland Yard because it is listed as I think 3 to 6 player game. I think it's great at 2.
Yeah,
one person, Mr. X, one person, all the detectives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not?
I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't say it on the box that you can play it as 2. So it's kind of strange. We used to go, when I was a kid, we would go to the beach every summer. And at this beach condo, at the beach, there's not a whole lot to do at night, right? It was just sort of a sleepy little town. During the day, you're out in the sun, you're in the water, etc. But like, what do you do after dinner? And it's dark out. And well, there was a copy of Scotland Yard there. So we played a ton of Scotland Yard
as a
family. Yeah. And so, that was great. 1983, Scotland Yard. Who would not say this is the best game from 1983? And the answer to that is BGG. BGG would not say it is. So we have another war game, but this one is different. I think I have not played it, and I think I have this right in my head. But this is Upfront. And I think Upfront is different because, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't have a board.
I think you're right.
It's just cards. So it is a war game, but it's a war game through cards.
I haven't played that one either, but I've heard rumors through the hobby. Isn't this the one that they had a Kickstarter reprint that just went into a disaster?
What does this mean for Upfront? Yeah. It was a sort of a meme thing going around there in board game circles, right? Yeah. So I was a little surprised to see a war game without a board from 1983. And of course I've heard about Upfront through the years, and I'm just sort of intrigued. It's probably, I'm not sure, it's probably just a 2-player game, which is probably why I've never played it. I don't play a lot of 2-player games, to be honest. But Upfront. There you go. 1983, better than Scotland Yard, according to BGG.
Sometimes people are wrong, and it's not me. Sometimes. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me how I'm wrong about 1984. Because my pick for 1984 is Balderdash, which is a party game.
I think that's a good pick.
I think what I actually have is Beyond Balderdash, but it is the same game.
It's the same game.
Yeah, right. Beyond Balderdash has a couple of different topics.
However you want to look at it. Right.
It is a superset. Beyond Balderdash is a superset of Balderdash. It is Balderdash with some extra stuff in it. So, it's basically you're just making up stupid definitions of things and trying to get people to guess your thing over other people's things and the real thing. It's just funny, right? We just play and we laugh. I have some creative friends, and gosh, there are a lot of games that are like this. So, and we've played several of them. So sometimes I get a little confused about which was the definition one that I was doing. But I swear there was one time we played this game, and then the actual definition of all these things was, it's a nautical term, it was derived from some nautical thing. All these things that you wouldn't necessarily expect were all derived from a nautical term. So that was like a running joke. So then every time we play this game, people are just putting, it's a nautical term from something, no matter what the word is. And if you have a running joke from a party game that makes sure everybody laugh, you've got a winner, right? So, 1984 for me is Balderdash.
That's really funny. My niece actually asked for this for Christmas this past year, and we got it for her. And we played a couple of rounds. So that's a good pick. Like you said, it's a fun game. You just got to be creative and try to come up with definitions for things, really. And most of the time, the actual definition is crazier than anybody else's imagination was anyway.
Yeah.
It's just weird things.
In a game like this, if you're having fun, you're winning. If you're trying to win, you're probably not having fun.
I agree. That's a good pick. For 1984, I'm going pretty deep into my childhood here because my game of the year is Mystery Mansion. I loved Mystery Mansion back in the day. If this game, all right, so there were basically the thing is there's a mansion and you're going to explore the mansion and you're trying to find the treasure and that. And this game had different levels. So like the ground level was flat, but you would put all these cardboard things together. So the second level was higher. It was like cardboard folded up under itself. And then like the next level was higher because it was more cardboard folded up. So you'd have all these different levels and you put little stairs to go between the levels, and you'd have a deck of like a search deck, and it would have like armoire or table on it. And if you're in the room and you're looking, you're saying, look, there's an armoire there. I'm going to use this to search that armoire. And then you would draw another to see if, well, maybe they get a chest. And if I did get a chest, is it empty or does it have some of the gold in it? And this is basically what's going on for this game, but I don't know why. I loved this game. I'm sure it's probably terrible, but I absolutely loved it. It was just the whole mystery of it, really, of wandering around these rooms. Let's see if I can find the treasure. And the 3D nature of it absolutely drew me as a kid, because everything is flat. You know what I'm saying? And then here's this game that has different levels, and you actually put little stairs between them and stuff. It was a lot of fun back in the day.
Not only have I not played this, I have never seen this, right? Like, I'm
Really?
listening to you describe it, and I'm like, I can't picture it.
I'm disappointed that I don't have this in my collection still. I don't know how I let this one go. It must have gotten wet or destroyed or something, because there's no way. I'm positive I would have never played it again for 70 years, but I'm disappointed I don't have it.
Man. Yeah, that's too bad. Be on the lookout at Goodwill for you.
Right?
All right. Well, unsurprisingly, neither one of us crossed over with the brains at BGG, the collective brain that has ranked the number one game from 1984 as Wizard. Have you played Wizard?
No.
So I have not played Wizard either, but it is a trick-taking game. And,
Okay.
you know, last video I talked about Oh Hell from the 1930s. And if you've seen my top 100 or some of my other recent plays, I've talked a lot about Skull King, which I really enjoy playing with my family. So now that I see Wizard, and I mean, I knew Wizard existed and was a trick-taking game and people liked it, but I didn't know what was special about it. But now that I read the description of what Wizard is, I think Skull King might just be a ripoff of Wizard.
Oh, interesting.
So, you know,
you've kind of been playing Wizard all this time.
Yeah, it looks pretty close, right? There's the cards that, you know, essentially you don't, there's like a super trump and you don't have to follow suit if you're playing one of those. Like, even if you have the cards that you could follow suit, there are these, you know, sort of trump cards that you can play instead. And it's the first one that get played that wins. And then there's, you know, and there's another card called the Joker that had some other sort of special capability. And the scoring was the same as well, which was similar to the Oh Hell scoring, in that you had to get your exact bid to get points. If you went over or under, you lost like 10 points per trick you were over or under or whatever. And
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm reading this and I'm like, boy, okay. All right. Skull King just ripped this off. All right. This game that I've been recommending is just ripping another game off. Now, I mean, I'm sure they have subtle differences because I haven't played them both. But so clearly we're seeing an inspiration here. So yeah, Wizard
Yes,
is
inspiration. The nice way to say they ripped it off.
well, you know, I mean, they both pretty heavily trace their roots to Oh Hell, right? So, you know,
Right, exactly.
you know, I don't think either one of them was thinking they were that original, but yeah, and I can see why this would be the number one rated game.
Well, I've never even heard of that. I thought for sure you were going to say Heimlich and Company, because I figured that's a pretty big game from that year. So,
I do remember seeing that. So, you know, I had made this list many years ago where I had written down the top BGG game, and then I went through, and it was interesting because some of the games like moved around, like
Really?
people had edited BGG to say when they had been published. They had some games had rose up while others had gone down, and so there were some interesting things. So I saw that Heimlich and Company, and I can't remember why I saw that there. Maybe it was previously the highest rated until Wizard jumped over it or something, but yeah.
It's possible. I think it won the Spiel des Jahres that year. I'm not a Spiel des Jahres expert, but I think so. I actually have that. I kind of picked it up at the FLGS, you know, on kind of the sale. It's like, hey, look, that's Spiel des Jahres winner. I'll get that. That's kind of a cool game. It's one of those. It's almost like Winner's Circle, which I watched in your 25 to 50, I think Winner's Circle was in.
Yeah,
it's almost
probably.
like that, where you're kind of like, you want one of these to win, but nobody knows who's rooting on who, and you just kind of move everybody around and hope yours is the one that passes the end first before everybody else does. So anyway, that's Hamilton Company.
Nice. Well, okay. So that is our gaming through time, 1980 through 1984. What games did we miss? I know there's some hidden gems out there that we forgot about or just haven't played. So, let us know those in the comments, and stay tuned because the next video is going to be 1985 to 1989. It's just going to keep getting more interesting every time we do.
It's warming up,
and it's going to be a lot harder to pick one each year. Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm going to give you a little preview. 1986 is crazy. Okay.
So warm up your keyboards because we're going to miss some really quality games, and you can yell at us. So, all right. Well, I'm Steven, and that's Erock. Thanks for joining us. Gaming Through Time.
See you next time.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a comment or hit the like button. It really does help us out. If you have suggestions for future videos, let us know in the comments as well, and then subscribe to see what we come up with next.